I absolutely refuse to meet my niece. Look, I'm an aunt who comes from a huge family with 5 other siblings. My mother has diagnosed NPD and has always been super manipulative and emotionally hurtful to me. My father is a drunk with a very bad temper. Of course, this caused almost all of their children to develop some kind of issue, whether it be mental health problems, addictions, etc. I was diagnosed with PTSD directly because of my parents' behavior. You might wonder what all of this has to do with my niece-nephew, but I'm telling you so you can better understand the situation I've been in. For almost my entire life, I endured the abuse without saying anything. My mother always made me feel like I deserved it. They always took their problems out on me, and my siblings turned a blind eye. That hurt me way more than I've ever confessed to them. When I turned 23, I finally saved enough to move out and have my own place. For me, it was a huge accomplishment, but for my family, it was a betrayal. Following my mother's orders, on the day I was moving out, my older brother hit me to stop me from leaving. He broke my nose and I hit my head. After moving out, I started therapy and, following my therapist's recommendation, I cut all contact with my family. For the first time in my life, I felt like I could breathe, and that's how it was, until a month ago. My sister found me on my new Instagram and told me she'd had a baby. We talked about our lives for a few minutes before she asked if I'd come home to meet her baby. I hesitated. Even though my sister has never directly abused me or said anything particularly hurtful, she's always turned a blind eye to the rest of the family's abuse. I asked if we could meet somewhere where I wouldn't have to see the others. Then she told me I should see it as a chance to apologize for abandoning them for 3 years. I blocked her immediately, but she's created other accounts to accuse me of being a horrible aunt and a horrible sister. Even though I think I did the right thing, it hurts to think I might never be the aunt her baby deserves. I don't know why, but in the following days I had trouble sleeping. I'd wake up with my jaw clenched, having dreams where I was trapped in that house again. I even caught myself checking my phone, expecting another message. Part of me, the part that survived for so long by adapting to guilt, thought, what if they're right? But then I'd remember all those nights I locked myself in the bathroom just to have a little peace. I'd remember the fear of coming home and not knowing if Dad would be drunk or if Mom would be in a bad mood. I'd remember how lonely I felt, even surrounded by siblings. And I'd reaffirm to myself, no, they're not right. Therapy has taught me to recognize my boundaries and, more importantly, to respect them. Took me years to build a life away from that chaos, and I know I'm still a work in progress. But something inside me shifted since my sister reappeared. A mix of anguish and nostalgia, like a part of me still longs to have something like a family. A real family. Couple of weeks later, I got an email. It was from my mother. I didn't open it. Just seeing her name made my hands shake. I left it there, unread, but it weighed on me. What if it said something important? What if... No. I closed the laptop and went for a walk. The fresh air helped me calm down. I looked at the sky and thought, I am not obligated to open any door I worked so hard to close. But things aren't always so clear. A few days ago, I dreamed of my sister's baby. She didn't have a face, just a pink blanket. In the dream, my sister handed her to me, and I held her with fear like I didn't know what to do. I woke up crying. I stared at the ceiling for a long time, wondering if I'd ever be able to have a relationship with her without walking through the fire of my family. And then I asked myself another question. Is it possible to build something new without destroying what you've already built to protect yourself? That question still haunts me. Yesterday I went to the supermarket and, accidentally, I saw one of my other sisters. I froze. I don't know if she saw me, but my heart was pounding like I was escaping a fire. I didn't know whether to hide or approach her. In the end, I did neither. I turned around, left the supermarket without buying anything, and wandered aimlessly for half an hour. I wondered if one day I'd be able to go out without being afraid of seeing someone from my past. How many years have to pass before a wound stops hurting when touched? That night, I opened my journal and wrote a list. Things I truly am, I put at the top. Not things I was told I was. Things I've discovered myself. I wrote, I am strong. I am empathetic. I am healing. I am learning to love myself. I am not responsible for the wounds others chose not to heal. I cried as I wrote it, but I also felt a small sense of relief. Today I got another notification. Another new account. Another message from my sister. I didn't open it, but for the first time I didn't feel defeated when I saw it. I felt tired but not destroyed. That's progress. I've been thinking about writing a letter to that baby. Not to send it, just to tell her things I would have liked to hear when I was little, as a way to heal something inside me even if she never reads it. Maybe that's my way of being an aunt, from afar in silence but with genuine love. Even if it's not what everyone expects, even if it doesn't fit the family above all narrative. Because now I know that family can also be the people who don't make you tremble when they show up. People you can be yourself with, without fear. And even though I don't have all the answers yet, something inside me is starting to want to move. Not run, not flee. Just move. Maybe that's the beginning of something. Or simply the next step. Sometimes I stand in front of the mirror and struggle to recognize the person looking back at me. Not because of age or accumulated exhaustion, but because of that mix of courage and vulnerability I didn't know how to name before. There are days when I'm convinced I've made progress, and others when I feel like I haven't left the same emotional maze. But something is different. Now I'm aware of every step I take. Since they reappeared, my routine has changed subtly. I no longer check my phone out of habit, I do it with a certain tension. I never know if there'll be a new account, a message, a trap disguised as reconciliation. Sometimes, even when there are no notifications, I feel like something is waiting for me on the other side of the screen. As if the past knows how to find cracks and sneak back in. My therapist told me about echoes of trauma, fragments that show up without warning, a song, a scent, a specific word. Today, for example, a woman on the phone in the subway was arguing with someone and used the exact tone of my mother. My legs trembled. I said nothing. I got off 2 stops early and walked in the rain. I got completely soaked, but it was better than enduring the memory. Lately, I've started collecting silences. Small moments where nothing happens. No blame. No invasive questions. No fear. I find them when I water the plants on the balcony or when I drink coffee looking out the window. In those moments, I realize I'm building something new, even if it doesn't have a name yet. Not long ago, a coworker invited me to a lunch with her family. I hesitated to accept. My hands were sweating just imagining myself sitting at a table with adults talking about stories without scars. But I went. I didn't talk much, but I observed. I was surprised by the tenderness with which they treated each other. They laughed. They listened. No one interrupted anyone with contempt. I left early but with a strange feeling, hope. Since then, I've started writing small imaginary scenes, as if I were building my own idea of what a family should be. Not that romantic, perfect version, but a real one. One where growing up doesn't hurt, where you don't have to hide your feelings to survive. I keep them in a blue notebook I hide under my pillow. It's my safe corner. 2 days ago, while sorting through some old books, I found a photograph from when I was a child. I must have been about 6. I was wearing a green dress and holding a red balloon. My smile seemed genuine, even though I already knew back then that I had to behave to avoid triggering a storm. I stared at myself and felt a knot in my stomach. That little girl is still here. I haven't forgotten her. I decided to leave her a note, a handwritten letter. I folded it and placed it next to the photo. I told her I was trying, that I know it wasn't her fault, that she deserved love, not punishment, that I'm learning to be the adult we needed. Cried, of course, but I also smiled. It was the first time in years I felt something close to comfort. The outside world keeps spinning, indifferent to all this. People walk, fall in love, argue, make plans. I watch them from a distance with a bit of envy and a touch of admiration. Sometimes I wish I could throw myself back into life, but then I remember that for me, even the simple things take courage. Today I received a physical letter, no return address. I opened it with trembling hands. It was from my younger brother. Didn't say much, just that he hoped I was okay, that he thought about me more than I'd imagine, and that if one day I wanted to talk, he'd be there. I didn't know what to feel. For years, he was the one who stayed silent when everything was burning. And now he wanted to talk? I left the letter on the table and sat in front of it for hours. I thought about the words he didn't say, about what that gesture might mean, about the possibility, remote but present, that someone else was trying to break the cycle. I haven't replied yet. I don't know if I will, but I didn't throw it away. I saved it in the blue notebook. The nights are still long. Insomnia keeps me company like an old friend who doesn't know when to leave. But I'm not as afraid of it anymore. I play soft music, light a candle, and write. Sometimes I draw. Other times I just close my eyes and let the thoughts float without clinging to them. It's a slow process, but it keeps me going. There's a new cafe near home, small, with old armchairs and books everywhere. I found it by accident and now I go every Sunday. I sit in the same corner, order the same tea, and observe. It's my ritual. Sometimes I see people who remind me of possible versions of myself. Other times I just enjoy the anonymity. It's a place where I don't have to explain anything. I haven't seen my sister again. I haven't unblocked any account, but her constant attempts are still part of the landscape, like rain tapping on the window but no longer getting in. I've learned to reinforce the glass. I don't know what's coming next. I only know that something is moving inside me, something I can't stop even if I wanted to, an energy pushing me toward the unknown but with a steadier direction. I'm not looking for reconciliations or happy endings, just truth and a little peace. The rest is yet to be written. I've started to notice how the days have grown longer, not because of the light, but because of how time stretches when you're in the process of rebuilding. Every morning is a small challenge, a reminder that living outside of chaos doesn't mean living without noise. There's another kind of noise, the internal one, the kind that doesn't need to scream to hurt. A week ago, during one of those aimless walks, I went into a secondhand bookstore. I wasn't looking for anything, but I ended up buying a novel about family loss. I read it in 3 days. Not because it was short, but because something in those pages spoke directly to me. Not everything was related to my story, but the feeling of searching for oxygen among ashes felt familiar. One of the phrases said, "The wound doesn't disappear when it closes, it just learns to hurt differently." I underlined those words and stuck them on the bathroom mirror. Every time I see them, I breathe more slowly. They remind me that I'm not failing for feeling broken sometimes, that even the strongest people still bleed when no one is watching. I've been organizing my things, not for cleanliness, but out of the need to understand what I'm keeping. I found letters I never sent, drawings from when I was a teenager, even small objects I had completely forgotten. One of them was a thread bracelet that a friend gave me in school. I wore it for months until my mother broke it during a ridiculous argument. I thought I had lost it, but it was there, hidden in a box. Holding it felt like reclaiming a part of me I thought was destroyed. I started a personal project. Small, intimate. I've been recording voice notes every night before bed. I don't share them with anyone. I just talk. Sometimes I talk about my day. Other times I repeat words I need to hear. You're safe. You're doing well. You don't have to run. I found myself crying while I record, but also laughing, remembering things I had buried. One morning I received an unexpected message. It wasn't from my family. It was from an old teacher who found me on social media. She said she was happy to see I was doing well, that she had always believed I had a strength most people didn't recognize. I was surprised that someone from my past remembered something positive. I appreciated her words, although I didn't know how to respond without sounding forced. Sometimes even compliments can hurt when you're not used to receiving them without hidden intentions. I went out for a walk that afternoon. The sun was low, the city quiet. I sat in a park and watched 2 kids playing. One of them fell, started crying, and his mother ran to pick him up. It was such a simple gesture, but it made me think of all the times I needed that and didn't have it. Not with anger, with a kind of soft resignation, as if I had finally accepted that my lack wasn't my fault. I've noticed I'm starting to take better care of myself. Not out of obligation but by choice. Cook meals I like. I buy flowers for no reason. I play music and dance even if no one's watching. Sometimes I feel ridiculous but also free. No one's watching me. No one's criticizing me. It's just me learning to enjoy my own company. One night I dreamed of my childhood home. It was empty. The walls were cracked, no furniture, no voices. I walked through the hallways, touching the walls, looking for something I couldn't name. I woke up with my heart racing but not afraid. Maybe my mind is trying to close circles that still hurt. In therapy we talk about bonds. Not all of them can be repaired, and not all of them should be. Took me a long time to understand that. I always thought that part of healing was going back and rebuilding connections. Now I'm beginning to understand that sometimes healing means allowing certain bonds to break completely. A few days ago I went to a local art fair. I saw a painting that caught me. It was abstract, but it conveyed the exact feeling I carry inside. Chaos contained in soft shapes. I stood in front of it for 20 minutes. I didn't say anything. I didn't take any pictures. I just looked at it until I felt I could breathe more clearly. I've started writing again, not just about my story. I'm creating characters, worlds, inventing possibilities that allow me to imagine futures without fear. I don't know if I'll ever share it with anyone, but for now it's enough to know that my creativity didn't die under the weight of everything I lived through. A friend invited me to a pottery class. I hesitated, as always, but I went. It was liberating to get my hands dirty, to shape something from scratch. It reminded me that everything can change shape, that even the most twisted thing can find a new structure if worked with patience. Relationships are still hard for me. I don't romanticize the idea of a partner. I'm not looking to be completed by someone else, but I've started to open up a bit. Light conversations, coffees with no expectations. It's like relearning a language you forgot from lack of use. I don't know where it'll take me, but I'm not closing the door. Sometimes I wonder if my niece will grow up knowing who I am, if one day she'll feel curious, if she'll search for her own truth beyond the stories they tell her. I don't want her to see me as a distant shadow, but I also can't go back to a place where I no longer belong. That weighs on me, more than I admit, but they settled so deep that they now feel like part of my skin. I saw that co-worker again, the one who invited me to her house a while ago. We went for coffee and ended up talking for hours. She listened without judging, without interrupting. It's rare to find someone who doesn't want to correct you or offer unsolicited advice. She was just present. That alone felt like an immense gift. I've incorporated small rituals into my daily routine. Lighting incense in the mornings, writing 3 things I'm grateful for before bed, making a cup of tea without rushing. Simple actions, but they ground me. They offer structure amidst the emotional chaos I'm still navigating. Recently, while reorganizing the kitchen, I found a handwritten recipe from my grandmother. Her shaky handwriting brought an unexpected smile to my face. I remembered cooking with her before everything fell apart. I made the dish in her honor. Didn't taste the same, but the smell wrapped around me like she was still close. I've started going to the park more often. Watching dogs play sparks a tenderness in me I didn't know I needed. They don't ask permission to be happy. They don't carry stories. They just live in the moment. They inspire me, even in the simplest ways. I still haven't replied to my brother's letter. I think about it now and then, like someone rereading a note they're too scared to say out loud. It's not fear, it's caution. 'Cause I know that once I cross that threshold, there's no going back. And I'm still not sure if that's the right thing to do. One night I dreamed of a forest. It was dark, but it didn't scare me. I walked among huge trees, their roots seeming to whisper. In the center, there was a clearing where someone was waiting for me. I couldn't see their face. I woke up with a strange sense of calm, as if something inside me had received a signal, even if I don't know how to interpret it yet. I've been experimenting with watercolors. I've never been good at drawing, but it's not about skill. It's more a way to release everything I don't know how to put into words. Colors mix and form shapes I don't understand, but that represent me. Chaotic but honest. I also picked up the habit of walking barefoot at home again. Feeling the floor beneath my feet brings me back to the present. Sometimes I forget how important it is to return to the body, to inhabit it without fear. For a long time, I treated it like a ruined shelter. Now I'm trying to make it feel like a home. I've been considering adopting a cat. The thought has been circling for weeks. Commitment scares me, but the possibility of caring for another being out of love and not obligation excites me. Maybe I'm not ready yet, but the fact that I'm thinking about it already means something. A song caught me this morning. I heard it while washing dishes and had to stop and cry. Not because of the lyrics, but because of how the melody held me. Sometimes, a simple harmony can dismantle all the walls you've worked so hard to build. Today I saw a mother with her young daughter at the bakery. The little girl tripped and started crying. The mother bent down, hugged her, and whispered something that calmed her. I left with that image in my mind. I didn't feel envy. I felt longing, a desire to offer that kind of tenderness to someone someday. I've avoided social media. I don't want to know what my siblings post or what they think. Any attempt to reach me through that channel feels violent. That's why I shut it down. Because protecting my space isn't selfishness, it's survival. One afternoon at the market, I saw a woman who looked like my mother. My heart skipped a beat. But when she turned around, I realized it wasn't her. I took a deep breath, not because I was scared, but because I understood how much power her image still holds in my memory. Winter is approaching. I feel it in the air, in the change of light, in the slower rhythm of people. It always brings me a mix of nostalgia and peace. Maybe because it forces you to retreat, to take shelter. And that's exactly what I need right now. There are no clear decisions on the horizon. No promises either. Just this constant walking, stumbling, yes, but also finding moments of clarity. And each of those moments feels like a victory, no matter how small. I keep writing, even if no one reads. Because in telling myself my own stories, I'm reconstructing the parts time tried to erase. 'Cause I deserve a narrative where pain isn't the protagonist, but just one part of the whole. And even though I still don't know where I'm going, at least I'm no longer running away. The sun came through the crack in the curtain, and for the first time in a long time, it didn't bother me. There was no jolt upon waking, no invisible anxiety slipping between my thoughts as soon as I opened my eyes. I stayed in bed for several minutes, watching the shadows on the ceiling. Something inside me had settled. That morning, I didn't do anything extraordinary. I washed my clothes, cooked rice with vegetables, cleaned the bathroom. Simple tasks that, without realizing it, became a kind of declaration. I'm here. I'm alive. I'm doing the best I can. The week before, I had received a new email from my sister. This time, I didn't ignore it. I read it calmly, without rushing. It wasn't an invitation, nor a reproach. Just a letter, seemingly honest. She said she was tired of repeating old patterns, that she had also started therapy, that she'd understand if I didn't want to respond, but that she needed to try, at least once, to speak without masks. I closed the message and didn't respond right away. I went to the park, sat on the bench where I usually think, and breathed. I tried to imagine what it would be like to talk to her without carrying everything that already happened. I thought of her daughter, that baby I still hadn't met and who, without knowing it, had been the spark that lit many of these reflections. That night, after a lot of thought, I replied. Not with a promise, nor with total openness. I wrote from my truth. I'm healing. Took me so much to get here. I can't go back, but maybe I can move forward from another place. We can talk if we respect boundaries. Her reply was brief. Thank you for trying. I'll do my part. And just like that, with those few words, a cycle closed. There were no hugs, no dramatic reconciliations, just a pause, a space for something different, maybe healthier, to emerge in time. I shared this step with my therapist. She congratulated me, but not with artificial enthusiasm. She did so with the seriousness that comes from deep understanding of pain. You don't need to build bridges where there were only abysses, she said. But if you can place one safe stone along the path, you've already done something important. The following days were peaceful, quiet but not empty. I started volunteering at a local organization, helping young people going through difficult family situations. I didn't present myself as someone with all the answers. I just offered to listen. And that was enough. In their eyes, I recognized my own story, blurred but familiar. One Saturday afternoon, I decided to visit an art exhibit at a cultural center. There was an entire room dedicated to women rebuilding their identities after abuse. Each piece spoke from a deep place with a strength that left me speechless. As I left, I felt accompanied, as if all those invisible voices had whispered in my ear, "You're not alone." That night, I dreamed of my childhood one last time. I was in that house, but there were no screams. I walked through the rooms in silence, picking up small objects and placing them in a backpack. When I was ready, I walked out the front door. No one stopped me. The air was warm, the sky immense. I woke up crying, but not from sadness. It was something else, a kind of relieving cry. Since then, something changed. Not suddenly, but like a flower blooming in slow motion. I started talking about my story without my voice breaking, telling what I lived through without guilt tightening my chest. My words were no longer blades. They were seeds. I've learned to forgive, not everyone and not for what they did, but for myself, 'cause I deserve to live without carrying resentment. I forgave my mother in silence, knowing she'll never change. I forgave my father for not being the refuge I needed. and I forgave myself for taking so long to walk away. One day, during a walk, I passed a little girl laughing as she chased a butterfly. I stopped to watch her. That's when I realized that everything I had done up to that moment was for that small version of myself who never got to run without fear. Now, finally, that little girl could rest. I decided to write my story, not as a testimony of pain, but as an open letter to those who have felt the same. To those who've hidden in corners, who've believed they don't deserve peace. I did it with no expectations, without wondering if anyone would read it, just with the need to not let my experience remain locked inside. Publishing that piece gave me something unexpected: community. People who, like me, were walking through their own labyrinths. We began sharing experiences, advice, even silences. I discovered that offering company doesn't always mean intervening. Sometimes it's enough to know someone on the other side is listening. I've stopped counting the days since I cut contact with my family. It's no longer an open wound. It's a scar. And though it's still there, it no longer defines me. I am more than the damage. I am more than what I was denied. I'm the result of every decision I've made to move forward. My home now has plants in every corner. My walls are covered in phrases that hold me up. And my life, though simple, is filled with genuine moments. Not perfect, but mine. I've learned to live in the calm, to be grateful for the ordinary, to celebrate invisible progress. I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but I'm ready, with clean hands, a lighter heart, and the certainty that I deserve what I'm building. I'm no longer just a survivor. I'm someone who chose to live with intention. And that finally is enough.